Cogliandro Beyens, and you are listening to the special Encard podcast series registered at the occasion of the 2022 edition of the Encard Academy. The goal of this podcast series is to learn how to become a change maker for a sustainable future. In this podcast series, you will listen to European leaders working in the broad field of culture. They will present you their work, their experience, their solutions to the current challenges and how they have used their digital, managerial and green skills in an innovative way, and thus to ensure a greener future. In this first podcast, I have the pleasure to welcome Herman Mendolicchio from the University of Barcelona.
Hello everyone, my name is Herman Bashiron Mendolicchio. I work in the Cultural Management program at the University of Barcelona, and I'm very glad to participate with this podcast in the 2022 edition of the ENCAD Academy. According with the thematic of the Academy of this year, I can say that I've been recently working on the relation and interaction between arts, culture, cultural policy, sustainability, and ecological awareness. When we talk about sustainability for cultural organizations, I think it's very important to start saying that we are not only talking about practical processes to reduce the ecological footprint or to reduce or improve the energetic resources, to eliminate plastic, and so on. These are clearly very important and necessary steps to take into account, but we are talking about a relevant contribution that the artistic and cultural sector can provide in order to generate awareness towards a more sustainable society. Beyond the needed practicalities, there are many aspects that we can think about when we approach the sustainability discourse. I could mention a few of them. One that I consider that is very important is reflecting on mobility practices. We work in international organizations, we participate actively in international projects, and this brings us to travel quite a lot to different countries, and we should ask ourselves, what is the impact of our movements and how is this connected to other global flows? My personal view on that aspect is that we need to reflect carefully about our own mobility practices. We need to improve them, but it's also important to say that the physical exchange is fundamental in the cultural field and that we should advocate to reduce other kind of polluting mobilities more than the human ones or the mobility of ideas and people. I'm thinking, for example, of those mobilities of cargo ships transporting here and there products that we probably do not need. So I would defend the mobility of people and ideas and make the best to reduce those mobilities of unnecessary products, for example. And this means thinking about the chain of production and distribution in a more sustainable way. And I think that from the cultural sector, we should have a voice on that. Another aspect that I consider very important is the one related to the concept of working locally. Sometimes we are attracted by what is happening in the other side of the world, and it is fully comprehensible, but we don't know what is happening around the corner. So being more sustainable, it means as well working more locally oriented. And this is something that cultural organizations should enhance. Another aspect is to be conscious about the presence of nature or the lack of nature that we have in our surroundings. We should, from cultural organizations, organize more activities outdoor. We should be conscious of the surrounding landscapes and be conscious of the impact that human activities have on the landscape and on the natural ecosystem. And this is related also to the idea of rewilding the urban environment or making cities and urban environments more nature friendly. Yeah, we could say like that. Related to this aspect, I think it's also another aspect that I would like to mention, that is strengthening the rural linkages, the rural connection. There are several projects and initiatives happening in rural context. At the same time, there are several challenges in the rural areas. For example, the one of the population. So I think that from cultural organization, we should reflect more on that and find more connection to the rural areas, the rural context, in order to be more sustainable as well. Well, what is happening? As we can read in the IPCC report, climate change is real and human activities are the main cause. So we know that the consequences of human avidity, the human greed on the planet, can be very hard to tackle and can lead us to disasters that have no way back. So in this context, we can see that there is a growing attention towards the sustainability discourse, and from the cultural policy field, and as well from several cultural organizations, there is an effort to reflect on the multiple challenges of the sustainability and to identify possible actions as well. In this sense, I would like to mention 3 recent publications in which I've been involved that reflect on the topic of sustainability and the ecological awareness from different perspectives. One is the publication Towards Sustainable Arts, published by the Bachman Foundation in the Netherlands. And this is a collection of best practices and policies from 7 different EU countries and regions. I'm going to mention them are Czech Republic, Finland, Flanders, Germany, the Netherlands, Scotland, and Spain. And it's interesting to see that in the publication, we can see that there are common challenges as well as particular specificities in each place. But in any region, in all the regions and areas, culture and arts play anyway a significant role and have a responsibility towards sustainability. Another recent study, which I co-authored with Jordi Baltà, has been the one commissioned by the province of Barcelona. And that study wanted to analyze the links between culture, the environment, and the climate emergency, and also have a look at the specific implementation, let's say, of practical projects and policies, cultural policies at the local level. The study identifies existing experiences, reflects on the impact of climate change on cultural management, and looks at the specific contribution that areas such as heritage or artistic creation can make in terms of environmental sustainability. Then a first study that I would like to mention is the handbook commissioned by the international network Circostrada, made in collaboration with Radar Cultura. That is a handbook elaborated specifically for contemporary circus and outdoor arts workers to navigate into ecological transformation. Without entering too much into details of the publications, I think that what is important to highlight is that we have common challenges, and we need to be aware of a new vocabulary that speaks about sustainable development, circular economy, ecological transition, ecological footprint, or biodiversity, etc. But then we have a multiplicity of perspectives and approaches that respond to the specificities of each place and even from each sector or discipline. We have examples from the music sector, focused on how to make festivals or big events more sustainable. We have examples from the visual arts sector where the approach is somehow more focused on creating a critical narrative. We have other examples coming from the performing arts field, from the museums and the heritage field, and so on. In the field of cultural management and cultural policies, there are many interesting actions to be done. For example, cultural organizations play a fundamental role in terms of environmental education. So there is the aspect of education that is very important to take into account in the activities that cultural organizations play. Then we have cultural activities that can promote and favor citizen participation. And that aspect, the topic of participation and collaboration, is really key in order to address in a more organic way the challenges related to the climate emergency and the multiple challenges related to how to achieve a real sustainability. While challenges can reveal opportunities, and as I wrote in the handbook for Circostrada, we could find different approaches, different sensibility, and therefore different ways to understand the current challenges and the multiple ways to respond to them. And this is as well the reason why we need to address the climate emergency and the sustainability discourse through collaboration, through cooperation, and through alliance, because different perspectives can work together in an integrated and organic way. So we know that we have a global picture, and this global picture is somehow the same for everybody: the climate emergency, the big challenge due to the climate emergency, but with multiple nuances that require the expertise, the visions, and the imagination of diverse people, cultures, values, and knowledge.